In a land in Greece called Arcadia, there lived a king and queen who had no children. However, they wanted very much to have a son who might live to rule Arcadia when the king died, and so they prayed to the great Jupiter to send them a son. After a while, they had a baby, but it was a girl. The king was very angry with Jupiter.
What's a girl good for? She can never do anything. If the baby had been a boy, he could have learned how to hunt, how to ride, and how to fight them in the wars. And by, he could become king of Arcadia. But this baby can never be a boy. Girls, come here. Take the baby into the forest and leave it there. I hope she'll be eaten by wild animals. No.
On the mountainside and laid it down on a bed of moss in the shadow of a big tree. He turned it away and left it there, for he didn't dare to disobey the king. For a whole night and a whole day, the babe lay on its bed of moss, wailing. A she-bird came strolling down the mountainside from her den. She heard the moans of the little baby, and when she saw it lying so helpless on the moss, she went to it and looked at her kindly. Then she lay down beside it, just as she would have done with her little cubs. The babe was too young to feel afraid, and it cuddled close to the old bear. After a while, she fell asleep, but the bear guarded it until morning and then went down the mountainside to look for food. In the evening, before dark, the bird came again and carried the child to her den. The little girl grew fast and became strong, and after a while could walk and run among the trees. One day, some hunters came up the mountain, and one of them pulled aside the vine which grew in front of the old bird's home. He was surprised to see the beautiful child lying on the grass and playing with the flowers. But at sight of him, she leaped off her feet and bounded away. She led the hunters on a fine chase among the trees and rocks, but there were a dozen of them, and it was not long till they caught her. The girl struggled with all her might, but to no avail. The hunters carried her down the mountain and took her to the house where they lived on the other side of the forest. At first, she cried all the time, for she sadly missed her bear that had been a mother to her for so long. But the hunters took care of her and were very kind, and it was not long till she began to like her new home. The hunters named her Atalanta, and when she grew older, they made her a bow and arrows and taught her how to shoot. And they gave her a light spear and showed her how to carry it and how to hurl it at the game. Then they took her with them when they went hunting, and there was nothing in the world that pleased her so much as roaming through the woods.
Not very far from the land of Orchidia, there was a little town named Calydon. It lay in the midst of rich wheat fields and fruitful vineyards, but beyond the vineyards there was a deep forest where many wild beasts lived. The king of Calydon was called Aeneas, and he governed there along with his wife Althea and his boys and girls. Their 6 sons were noble, handsome fellows, but the noblest and the handsomest of them all was Meleager, the youngest. When Meleager was a tiny baby, only 7 days old, a strange thing happened in the white palace of the king. Queen Althea awoke in the middle of the night and saw a fire blazing on the hearth. She stood up, headed.
What can it mean?
Three strange women were standing by the hearth. They were tall and had stern faces. Althea knew at once that they were the fates who give gifts of some kind to every child that is born.
What should we give to this child?
I give him a brave heart.
I give him a gentle nobleman. Leave aside those shears, sister, and give the child your gift.
Well, I give him life until this brand will burn to ashes.
The three sisters waited till the stick was ablaze, and they were gone. Althea got up quickly. She saw nothing but the fire on the hearth, and the stick burning slowly away. She hurriedly poured water on the fire, and when all the sparks were out, she took the short stick, put it in a strong chest where she kept her treasures, and locked it up.
Now I know that my little child's life is safe as long as that stick is kept unburned.
As the years went by, Meleager grew up to be a brave young man, so gentle and noble that his name became known in every land of Greece. People from Calydon declared that he was the worthiest of the sons of Aeneas to become their king.
In the fertile fields of Calydon, King Onius organized a thanksgiving ceremony to express gratitude to the powerful winds for the bountiful harvest of grapes and wheat. Altars were erected in honor of various gods and spirits, but Diana, the hunter and queen of the forests, was inadvertently left out. Despite this oversight, the celebration proceeded with joy, and everyone returned to home content. But among the powerful beings, something unexpected happened. They forgot to thank Diana. She didn't receive any altar or offering.
Ten people of Calydon, in gratitude for the abundance of our fields of grapes, and with we will offer a thanksgiving. We will pay with our best harvest for the abundance.
Thanks Jupiter, thanks Ceres, thanks Bacchus, thanks Mercury, thanks Aphrodite, and thank you Artemis.
What's all that noise?
I think it's people of Calydon celebrating a party.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad you are enjoying.
But I don't see any alpha for you.
What? Haven't they offered me anything?
No, they haven't mentioned to you.
Oh, this is unforgivable. I will punish you for your ingratitude. May the biggest and the fiercest war destroy them all.
Everything went well until the following summer when a fearsome wild boar emerged from the forest, unleashing chaos on the town of Calydon. The king said, "Maybe last year we forgot to worship a god." Immediately, the king remembered that they had forgotten Diana. That is why Diana had sent a monster whose appearance was like a ferocious boar. She did this to punish us for having forgotten her. The king quickly sent in search of the bravest and most skilled hunters from the nearby kingdoms.
A monster has fallen on us. Summon the hunters, the bravest warriors. Diana has sent to us to beat this beast as punishment. We must hunt it before it destroys everything. Oh no! No! Help me!
On the appointed day set by King Oeneus, a splendid assembly of men convened in Calydon. Among them were the greatest heroes from all the corners of the world. In the company of the warriors stood a tall maiden armed with bow and arrows, none other than Atalanta, the skilled hunter.
Hey, girl, come on. My daughters are playing in the garden a game of golf. Wouldn't you put your arrows and spear and go and play with them?
Atalanta shook her head.
Perhaps you would rather stay with the queen and see the women spin and wave.
No, I am going with the warriors to hunt the wild boar in the forest.
A collective astonishment swept through the assembly. They have never heard of such a thing as a girl going out with heroes to hunt the ferocious wild boar.
Well, if she goes down not, because the whole world will laugh at us, and we will never hear the end of it.
A number of them threatened to leave immediately, while one of the brothers of Queen Althea, displaying their rudeness, proclaimed,
Yes, the hunt was reserved for heroes and not for puny girls.
Atalanta only grasped her arrow more firmly and stood up, tall and straight. Just then a handsome young man came forward. It was Meleager.
What's this? Who dares deny Atalanta the hunt? You are afraid that she will be braver than you. Let all such cowards leave immediately.
But nobody laughed, so Atalanta got her way, but Queen Althea's brothers weren't happy and kept grumbling. After 9 days of fasting, heroes and hunters set out on a dangerous expedition through the forest. They encountered a formidable wild boar. Some heroes, unprepared for such a creature, sought refuge behind the trees. The boar, a monstrous spectacle with a foaming mouth and fiery eyes, unleashed a relentless charge. Despite valiant attempts, casualties followed as the beast wreaked havoc. At a crucial moment, Atalanta's accurate spear wounded the boar, followed by the decisive arrow and Meleager's killing blow. The boar succumbed, making the end of a formidable and dangerous encounter in the heart of the forest. After defeating the boar, the heroes severed its head. The skin, a tribute to Meleager for delivering the fatal blow, was offered as a prize. However, Meleager declined the honor.
It belongs to Atalanta because it was she who gave him the
After
first wound.
Atalanta's triumphant victory, jealousy arose among Queen Althea's brothers. They seized Atalanta's spear and the boar's skin, mocking her. Meleager, annoyed by their behavior, tried to intervene, but the insult escalated into a fight. In the chaos, the brothers were killed, and the procession back to the city included the parts of the boar and the fallen warriors. A man who didn't like Meleager reached the city ahead of the group and informed Queen Althea that Meleager had killed her brothers.
Queen! Queen! What has happened in the forest?
Manager has slain your brother.
No! How could this happen?
He is the culprit, Your Highness.
I must avenge my brothers.
Overwhelmed by grief, Althea lost control, and in her madness, she sought revenge, forgetting that Millager was her son.
Revenge!
Althea threw the unburned firebrand into the fire. As it turns to ashes, Millager, who had been walking with Atalanta, collapsed and died. When Althea receives the news, she realizes the consequences of her actions. Overcome with grief, she goes to her room. In tears, she took up her sword and died. Soon after, the king returns home to find Althea dead, making the tragic end of Caledonian hunt.
After the death of Milleger, Atalanta went back to her old home among the mountains of Arcadia. All the world had heard about her. However, and the young heroes in the lands nearest to Arcadia did nothing else but talk of her beauty and her grace. Of course, every one of these young fellows wanted her to become his wife, and she might have been a queen any day if she had only said a word. But she cared nothing for any of them, and she liked the freedom of the green woods better than all the fine things she might have had in a palace. The persistent young men refused to accept her rejection, and they continued coming and staying in the woods, making Arcadia unbearable. Unable to find another solution, Atalanta called them together and said,
I will marry the man who can outrun me in a race, from this mountain to the river.
Agreed.
But listen, whoever tries overcame in a race, and if I win the race, you lose your life.
But won't you give us the start of you, Alita?
Oh yes, I will give you 100 pieces here start.
All right.
And so it happened that the race was run almost every day, and almost every day some poor fellow lost his head. One day there came from a distant town a handsome, tall young man named Millennium. But before coming to try his chance, he had talked with Aphrodite, the queen of love who lived with Jupiter among the clouds of the mountain top. And she gave him 3 golden apples and gave him instructions to follow during the race. It was time for the contest, and Atalanta tried again to persuade Millennium not to run, for she also took pity on him.
You better not run with me, because I will make sure to overtake you, and that will be the end of you.
Well, we'll see about that.
I will sure to overtake you.
All right.
And away he sped, but he had the 3 golden apples in his pocket. Millennium took the lead, but Atalanta was not worried. She knew that the young man would not be able to keep up the pace for long. At this moment, Millennium took out of his bag a golden apple which caught the girl's attention. He dropped one of the apples on the ground. Atalanta, impressed by such a precious thing, bent down to pick it up. Just as Millennium was about to overtake him, he dropped another apple. Atalanta could not resist the urge and bent down to pick up the fruit. Millennium crossed the finish line first. After that, of course, Atalanta became Millennium's wife, and he took her with him to his distant home, and there they lived happily together for many, many years.